So as we approach the Christmas season and all throughout the month of December, our series, Jesus is blank, fill in the blank. How would you fill in that blank? Who would you say that Jesus is? And that might be the most important question you could ever answer in your life. Who is Jesus? Who is Jesus to you? During the Christmas season, it's natural for us to talk a lot about Jesus. Who was Jesus? Was Jesus even real? I think sometimes we talk about Jesus the same way we talk about Santa Claus, as maybe something that our parents made up, or someone that just exists to prove whether someone's been naughty or nice this year. Maybe Jesus is just there so that we'll behave. We can think of Jesus as just this made up person. But Jesus was real. Even atheists admit that. There's hardly any person, any well-known scholar that would even contend that Jesus wasn't a real person. There's more proof that Jesus was real than someone like Julius Caesar or Genghis Khan. These are major historical figures, and there's more proof that Jesus existed than that they did. It's not just the Bible that talks about Jesus, but there's all kinds of other literature, historical artifacts that prove that Jesus was a real person. Have you thought about that? That Jesus was a real person? We have proof. History proves that Jesus was real. And maybe you just need to let that sink in for a little bit, because like I said, we often talk about Jesus as if he's this mystical, mysterious Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, Jesus. But no, Jesus was a real person. He really lived on the real earth. You can go and visit the real places that he was. And there's real proof that he existed. Now, the fact that Jesus was real means that we have to decide what that means for us. If Jesus was real, who do we think that he is? And throughout this series, we're calling this series Jesus is blank, because every person on earth has to fill in that blank. We can't just choose to believe that Jesus didn't exist, because he did. But what we have to choose, what we have to decide, is who was he? C.S. Lewis says it like this, that a lot of people think that Jesus was just a good person, just a good teacher. But C.S. Lewis says that nobody could do the things Jesus did, say the things that Jesus said, and simply be a good teacher. They would either be a lunatic, a crazy person, a liar, or we have to call them Lord. And so just in these 2 weeks during this series, we're asking that question, who is Jesus? For me, one of the most important aspects of who is Jesus is the fact that Jesus is real. Jesus was a real person. Why is that so significant? Well, one, it means that he isn't just made up. We have proof that Jesus was real. But if Jesus was real, and if Jesus is really who he said he was, God coming down to earth for us, that is the greatest news anybody could ever tell us. See, all we have to do is look around at the world to see the effects of its brokenness. Sin, injustice, hurt, pain, global pandemics, political, racial unrest. Our world is broken. It's not hard to see that. And God sees that brokenness. In fact, God has seen that brokenness from the beginning, because that's not the way that God created the world to be. Now, other religions, other beliefs, they talk about the fact that we as people are broken and God is not. And so we need to do something in order to get to God. There's rules we have to follow. There's actions we have to take so that we can get to God. But the amazing thing about Jesus and the truth of Jesus and the truth of Christmas, why we celebrate Christmas, is that we can't get to God, but God has come to us. As a person, as a human being, he took on flesh. And that means that Jesus has experienced what we as humans, as people, experience. Yes, he's God, but he's also a human. Sometimes when we think about the fact that Jesus was fully God and fully man, it's easier for us to think about his godness, right? The fact that he did miracles, the fact that he knew what people were thinking, the fact that he had all this wisdom and all this knowledge. But sometimes it's harder for us to think about Jesus as a person, To think about Jesus as a human being doing all the things and experiencing all the things that we as people do. And I wonder, is it harder for you to understand Jesus as a human or understand Jesus as God? But we have to understand that he was both. He was God as a human being. And if Jesus was a human, that means he got hungry. It means he got hangry. It means he got tired. It means he got sick. It means that he felt loss. He felt pain. He felt sadness. He felt hurt. He knew what it was like to have his friends turn his back on him. He knew what it was like to have problems in his family. He knew what it was like to go to school, to interact with other people, to not always be the popular kid. He knew what it was like to want things and not get them. He knew what it was like to experience disappointment and fear and loss and hurt and pain and temptation. Jesus knows what it's like to be human. Jesus knows what it's like to be you. And so the passage I want you guys to look at tonight is Hebrews 4, verse 14 to 16. And in that passage, it says that Jesus is our great high priest. He's someone that we can go to who gives us access to God because he is God. And so when we feel that disconnect, when we feel like there's a gap between us and God, we can go to Jesus because he is our great high priest. We can go to him, we can pray to him. But he isn't just this high priest that's way out there and who doesn't know what it's like to be us. No, he understands what it's like to be human because he was a real person. Jesus is man and God. And so he can sympathize with us as people, as humans, but he can help us overcome it as God. This is the power of the fact that Jesus was real. We don't have to work our way up to get to God. No, God came down to us as a person. He lived as a person. He experienced life as a person. And so he knows what it's like to be you. He knows your hurt. He knows your pain. He knows your struggle. And he loves you. He loves you no matter what. And he wants to help you overcome and grow and become more and more like him. Jesus is real. So as you guys go to your groups, I want you to take a look at that passage in Hebrews chapter 4. I want you to look at the context of that passage because it's going to say some really important stuff about Jesus giving us rest and the significance of the fact that Jesus was both God and man. And as you talk in your groups, I want you to focus on this fact. Jesus was real. Who do you say that he is? How will you fill in that blank this week? Jesus is